Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to the American Tribune Live. I am Todd Pearson. We did it again. We skipped the intro music, and I gotta say, I like it because we're just gonna start talking. You see me on the face here. You're always wondering, like, when does the show actually start? But it is kind of weird. I needed the music to like amp me up a little bit. But I'm glad you're with me today, folks. I'm just checking that we are live. We are on YouTube. We are on X. We are on two different Rumble channels. I always encourage viewers to go to Rumble, go to the American Tribune. That's our main page. Go to my podcast page, the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. We're just going to say it today. Dems officially came out as the pro-murder party. I'm not surprised. You shouldn't be surprised. I invite all the Democrat voters in my audience, whether watching live or after the fact, they're listening over on Apple, on Spotify, they catch the broadcast later on. Let me know where I'm wrong here, but my position is pretty clear at this point. I dropped a tweet yesterday, and I always hate talking about, like, I did this over on X the other day, and people are always referencing their just smartest, wisest, most sagacious tweet they ever dropped on the internet here, like it's the best question ever here. But my premise was simple. I said, people are like, how do you support Donald Trump and his fascism? We're going to talk about his fascism in a little bit in Washington, D.C., as we expose all of the hypocrisy of what Democrats have to believe. I honestly don't know how Democrats have not all stroked out yet, whether it's from the COVID jab or whether it's simply from holding two competing ideas that cannot be resolved, holding two competing ideas in their heads at all times, no matter what the issue is. No wonder they're all going crazy, because this is not feasible. This is not tenable in the long run anymore. Dems have got to figure this out, what they want to believe, because they can't believe two competing ideas at the exact same time. But I laid out the case that Democrats have officially come out, and this was bubbling up under Joe Biden. It's certainly come out under Donald Trump. He has just ripped the mask off of Democrats. You have a party that is just pro-open borders, pro-illegal immigration, pro-crime, pro-infanticide, pro-child grooming, pro-murder now we are seeing this week, and the list goes on and on. Like, think of an evil in this world, and Democrats have staked out the position that they're pro that evil. Go ahead and change my mind on that, but honestly, I don't think you can at this point. I would more like a Democrat to engage with the idea that they are supporting a party that is pure evil at this point. They are pro-pure evil, no matter what policy position they stake out, no matter what platform issue they run on or create, no matter what they say anymore. They're just pro-evil of everything. I always go back to Doge. Doge has got to be the easiest example we've seen since Trump took office. Here were the people. You had every major Democrat politician. You had everyone that was just a propagandist. There's no such thing as a journalist anymore if you're watching CNN, MSNBC, or whatever it is. They are not journalists. They are propagandists. And they were making the claim that how dare an unelected president named Elon Musk go into the bank records and the accounting offices and audits all of the government agencies. He wasn't elected. How can he go in there and expose all of the corruption? And you had Democrats very plainly staking out the case that no, we like corruption. We don't want Doge to be transparent. We don't want Doge to root out the waste, the fraud, the grift, the laundering, the stealing, the theft, all of which was taking place to benefit Democrats, by the way. You wonder why they were mad about it. But they staked out the pro-corruption case. And as I'm talking about Washington, D.C. today, Donald Trump, earlier on Monday this week, he said, starting this week, I'm over it. I'm not dealing with the crime. I'm not dealing with the carjackings. I'm not dealing with the outright murder anymore of American citizens. I'm going to clean up the nation's capital. And you had Democrats immediately say, well, this is racist. And of course, I've got a question for you. Are you acknowledging that this problem of crime is black? And it is, by the way. The only problem I have with Donald Trump's approach this week is he's not calling it for what it is. This is a black youth problem in Washington, D.C. It is largely a black youth problem in any major Democrat-run city. Where you see high crime, you see a large gathering of black teenagers. This is what the reality is. You don't need to be ashamed to say it. You don't have to run from the facts. You don't have to the euphemism of like the youths. You've got Jeanine Pirro and Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and Carolyn Levitt all there, all talking about the D.C. youths. It's a criminal problem. No, it is the black teenager problem. And you need to be honest about that. How can you solve a problem if you're not honest with what the problem really is here? So it is not racist to say that, but it is interesting to, and I've got video clips. I've got, what is her name? Simone Sanders? Yeah, her name is Simone Sanders on MSDNC. I've got a panel of three black activists on MSNBC, and they're like, it's so racist of Donald Trump to target these cities with high crime. And it's like, do you not hear yourself? Like, these cities have high crime because they have a large congregation of black teenagers. Like, it is what it is, folks. Hey, we got Fally in the chat. Good morning, Fally. Welcome aboard here. And Fally makes a good point. I'm going to touch on this a little bit later as well. The black teens have been getting away with this for so long because they know they can't be arrested. We have raised generations of white liberals, but also generations of young black people. The whites who say it is racist to hold blacks accountable, and the blacks who know that they can get away with literally murder, as we have seen in all the big cities, because the whites aren't going to hold them accountable here. It is a vicious cycle, to be sure. And Donald Trump's not having it anymore, and he doesn't care what the optics are about, oh, you're going after black communities. Donald Trump's position is clear. I am going after dangerous communities. If those communities happen to be black, so be it. If it was a community of illegal immigrants from Mexico, if it was a community, I don't think this would be a thing, but if it was a community of like Irish in Boston, he would go after them too. So no, this is not racist. This is good policy. But the left is melting down, and they have staked out their claim. They are the party of pro-murder. This is not hyperbole. This is just where they are. And like I said on my Tuesday show, Democrat morality revolves around really two things. But more than anything, it revolves around the fact of how can I be opposed to Donald Trump? In 2025, we've had 10 years of brainwashing propaganda. TDS has just taken over their little tiny minds here, which again have not stroked out yet amazingly because of the cognitive dissonance. They're holding two things. I'm gonna explore all of the hypocrisy as well, what they support and what they get mad about in like the same sentence. They never even think that there's a contradiction in ideas. It's wild. It is just absolutely wild here. Fally is on fire in the chat. No, it's time to end this crap. Yes, it is very simple. I want to live in a safe society. I want to live in a high trust society. This should not be controversial. Every single American, even libs in private, would admit, like, I don't really go to that big city anymore because it's dangerous. No, I would never walk around Washington, D.C. neighborhoods at night on my own because I would probably be assaulted and robbed at best and murdered at worst. They all admit the truth. But again, part of it is the racial angle. Whites have been taught for generations now that you can't even think a bad thought about blacks. Blacks are never wrong. They can't do anything wrong. They should certainly never be held accountable because we had slavery once upon a time. So you can't hold people accountable because of something that happened hundreds of years ago and was universal around the world until, ironically enough, whites abolished the practice, starting with Britain and the United States. So it just needs to stop here. Fally, I'm just going to read your comments here. You are on fire this morning. We knew when they started their defund the police, this was the outcome. Yeah, this is not a new thing. I'm glad you brought that up too. Democrats being the party of pro-murder is not new. Make no mistake. They have been the pro-crime party for decades at this point, and it goes all the way back to when they said, well, we can't hold certain groups accountable for what they did because of something else that happened in the past. We want to practice restorative justice. We want to rehabilitate these criminals. We want to give everybody a fair chance because blank slateism, isn't blank slateism nice? Everybody is just going to be wonderful and marvelous, and if not for just trauma in their childhood or in whatever else happens as a kid, you make one back to it. Some people are just going to be criminals. They can't accept the fact that there are just people with a genetic predisposition to commit criminal acts. There are certainly people that, because of their childhood, have never been inculcated with the proper values, morals, customs. They refuse to integrate into a proper society. That is also partially racially motivated at this point. You can't act white in the black community. And by acting white, they look around and they say people that are honest, trustworthy, not violent, not criminals, the thing in school is I can't even say do good in school anymore because if you look at the education stats in the government school system, it is abysmal. So nobody is succeeding in the government school system now. Parenting across the board, across all races, is a disaster here. You cannot put your kid in front of a screen all day and expect good outcomes. But the idea of trying hard in school, at the very least, is still a white idea here. So blacks have really set themselves up for failure by rejecting everything that actually makes a functioning society and a functioning individual. But yes, defund the police was also ripping off the mask back then. They said, no, we actually like crime. We have no problem with the other thing too, folks. I was going to get into the stats later on. I'll get into it right now. When they are screaming racism, they don't want to acknowledge the fact that it is mostly blacks hurting other blacks. So which lane is it? Are you a racist for going after the black criminals, or are you a savior for preventing black victims? 90% of all black homicides occur with a black aggressor. 90%. So if you eliminated the violent black aggressors, you would be saving mostly other innocent black people. So again, are you a racist for cracking down on black crime, or are you a hero and a champion of the black community for saving the innocent victims or would-be victims? That would be my position right here. It seems pretty obvious as well. But again, they always look at it at one side. Democrats will defend evil every single time. There's a Talmudic expression here that's just been burned into my brain. If you're kind to the cruel, you'll be cruel to the kind, because it's one or the other. And Democrats have always been this bleeding heart liberal. We've always had this idea growing up my entire life, bleeding heart liberals. Democrats just cared too much. I was cold and calculated as a conservative. I didn't care about people at all. I needed to be kinder to the victimizers and the aggressors and the offenders. And by extension, I had to ignore the victims. So when Democrats are kind to the cruel, when they say, you murdered someone again, you can have time back on the street. We won't. Here's a fine, here's probation, here's house arrest. Go back on the street and victimize someone else. Oh, you were stealing again, carjacking again. That's okay. You're a black youth. You had a traumatic childhood. So we will not hold you accountable for that. And you can go carjack again in the streets here. That is not empathy. Empathy is not saying, how many times can I let this criminal criminalize? Empathy would actually be, you stole from a grandmother. You beat a grandmother. You stole a grandmother's car. You murdered this person. You murdered another black teenager. Empathy is when you care for the victims of these crimes. Empathy is not caring about the aggressors. In a just society, we would have more public executions. We'd have more prisons. Don't believe for a second that our prisoner population is too high for all the modern world here, first world countries. America has the biggest prison population. Yeah, and it's not big enough. We need more prisons to house all these criminals here. We will be a functioning society again when there are no criminals on the streets, and the ones that do crop up are immediately sent to their prisons to join their other criminal buddies here. But yes, Democrats, let me go back to the title here because I got to get into the video clips. Fally, good morning. Thanks for being in the chat here. Good morning to everybody else. If you're watching over on Rumble, American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson, drop a comment. Let me know you're watching today. Before we get into some video clips here, as we, again, hammer home the point that Dems are now the pro-murder party, I won't even debate this issue. I'd love to hear a Democrat in the audience at least try to explain or justify why they're not. I mean, you're not going to change my mind. I'm here to change your mind. And the case is pretty simple. Donald Trump said he's going to stop murder in D.C., and you are mad about it. So how are you not the party of pro-murder if Donald Trump says A and you take the opposite approach of A? But again, that is Democrat morality in a nutshell. Whatever Donald Trump supports, I will oppose. And Fally says AOCs, they're just trying to feed themselves. Yeah, Fally, that will always be a classic. Yeah, they're just stealing bread, just taking bread from the grocery store. Folks, I want to tell you about some sponsors of the show here. I appreciate our sponsors. I don't make a lot of money on these sponsorship deals. It is more to promote good brands from people that I like. I might make $1 off of this, so it's not about me making money, but it's about me using my platform, however big or small it may be, just to support a good cause here. So folks, number one, I want to start off with Split Rock Coffee. My mug kind of got destroyed in the dishwasher here. It was a nice pontoon before. And I got this from a colleague who probably doesn't like me anymore. I got this from a colleague when I worked in the government school system as an assistant principal. She knew I had a pontoon. So she got me a mug with a picture of a pontoon. It says, like a regular captain, only more drunker, to summarize pontooning. I don't really drink that much anymore, but I like the mug and I appreciated the gesture here. That's before she knew I was an out and out far right conservative. And I don't even know what those words mean anymore. I just want a functioning society. Label me whatever you want. I just want law and order on the streets. I want illegals sent home. I want bad guys in prison. I want my kids left alone from the government. That's all I want. However you want to label that, I call that just common sense here. But I don't know if she would give me a mug anymore if she listened to the podcast, because unfortunately you have a lot of great people in the government school system with a lot of terrible ideas. So splitrockcoffee.com, folks. That was the whole point of me showing my mug. Go to splitrockcoffee.com, use promo code Todd10. And then you can subscribe and save. You can get deliveries from either, I get whole bean every time. There's nothing better than grinding your own beans and making coffee right away. They got the ground variations. They got the whole bean variations. But splitrockcoffee.com, use promo code Todd10. And you are supporting a disabled veteran-owned coffee company right here in Minnesota, where I broadcast from. Paul's normally in the chat, but then Paul's also on vacation. I don't know. Paul might have Minnesota residence, but I never see Paul in Minnesota anymore. So he's living the dream. He's got his own coffee company. He's traveling around supporting good causes. So support Paul as well. Splitrockcoffee.com, promo code Todd10. And folks, the other product I just want to share really fast here. It's called Hinatory Golf. This is a friend of a friend here in Minnesota as well. He was looking at the landscape. He's like me. We're average duffers here. We don't get out anymore because we have young kids, but we aspire to play golf sometime in the future. But if you go to Hinatory Golf, that's HINOTORI golf.com, HinatoriGolf.com. He created some brand new merch, gloves, hats. He's rolling out new products all the time here. They look fantastic. Actually, I'm going to share my screen really fast. I got to show you this. These things are great. There it is, Hinatory Golf here. If you are a golfer, you know that you have two options for golf clubs especially, black or white. And he said, I know there's got to be a third option, and I'm going to create that third option now. Take a look at the beautiful gloves he makes, though. He's got the bonsai glove that's green, the cherry blossom glove that's got the cherry blossoms, perfect for Washington, D.C. in the spring. He's got the phoenix glove that looks solid in the red, the pine, the spider lily, the wave glove. These things look awesome. They feel great. I have not used mine yet. I'm looking at them. Never used them because I have a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and I do my show every day. I'm busy in the morning with work here. Hard to get out. Like I said, though, I aspire to play golf one more time in the future here. But yeah, these are great products. HinatoriGolf.com. You can use promo code Todd15 for that one. So not to confuse you with promo code Todd10 at Split Rock Coffee and promo code Todd15 at Hinatory Golf. Got to get it out of the way. Again, I'm not doing this to pay the rent or anything. I just want to support good products from people that live in Minnesota. I just appreciate entrepreneurial spirits. Paul started Split Rock Coffee. My buddy over here started Hinatory Golf. He recognized a void in the market. Heck, I started American Tribune with a couple colleagues up here in Minnesota as well. I just appreciate anyone that sees an opportunity and takes the time to go for it. The American spirit here, I'm really promoting the American spirit. You just go out and you try something. You find a niche in a market, you work hard, you create something like this, and I want to support people that are doing things in the same vein that the American Tribune is doing as well. And so, folks, splitrockcoffee.com, promo code Todd10, HinatoriGolf.com, promo code Todd15. Let's dive into it. Let's get rid of this for a second here. Stop sharing our screen. Let's get into Simone Sanders. I've seen her before. She was always buried by Joy Reid at MSNBC because when you thought of like loud, angry, obnoxious, just left communist black woman, you were like, Joy Reid. Well, Joy Reid's gone, and Simone Sanders has been saying for a long time now, hold my beer. You thought she was loud and obnoxious and wrong and arrogant and everything derogatory and negative you could absolutely say about Joy Reid. Simone Sanders said, I will be all that and more, and I'm going to have an awful haircut. Fally does say, I think they call that capitalism at its finest. Absolutely, Fally. I love capitalism. I love the free market. I love people that take advantage of it. That's why I want to support those great products here. And again, it's all Minnesota-based. If you want to help out conservatives in blue Minnesota, that would be a great place to start, though. So let's get to Simone Sanders here. So we got to talk about D.C. When I say Dems have officially come out as the pro-murder party, I mean it. And they mean it, too. Whenever I say things on this show, they're like, that is your opinion, Todd. You are biased towards Donald Trump. Yes, I have biases. Yes, I have lots of opinions. But no, when I make claims like this, I'm not opining that Dems officially came out as a pro-murder party. I am stating as objective fact the Dems are now the pro-murder party. And you know how I know that's a fact? Because it's not me saying it necessarily. It is me interpreting what I see Democrats saying. And they say we are fine with murder in D.C. because it is racist to arrest black teenagers that are violent and criminal and will never function in society. It's violent to want to remove them, even though their victims are most often black as well. You got the high-profile cases like a Seth Rich. Hillary Clinton came out and said, no, Washington, D.C. is fine. And this is the woman who's staffer, Seth Rich. She probably planned the murder, if we're being honest. So it wasn't like it was just some black youth that got Seth Rich. It was a hit. But pretty ironic for Hillary to come out and talk about the safety of D.C. when her own dude, Seth Rich, got offed in Washington, D.C. But it's black victims. The high-profile ones are white. You got the staffer, the intern that was just murdered there. Big Balls was just assaulted there. So, yes, some of the stories are more when it's black on white. But there have been stories of Democrat politicians themselves. I forget his name here. I think he was a Hispanic guy from the American Southwest. He was assaulted in Washington, D.C. The media buries those stories, though, because they don't want to talk about how bad D.C. is and how dangerous it is. And by extension, how dangerous all the other big cities are. Again, because of the black teenage problem. You just got to call it for what it is. All right, but here's a lady here that says it is racist. D.C. is fine, and I am fine with the murders that take place. I am fine that 90% of the victims of black crime are also black as well. We can't focus on that. Don't focus on the second part of the problem. Just focus on black people getting held accountable. That's racist.
You don't think more police make streets safer?
No, Joe. I'm a black woman in America. I do not always think that more police make streets safer. When you walk.
All right, I have to pause it right there. Oh, I can't believe we're still having this conversation. When George Floyd killed himself, and there happened to be a police officer on his shoulder, not his neck. Remember the autopsy report that found no crushed larynx, no crushed ligaments, no crushed airway? George Floyd was perfectly capable of breathing with Chauvin behind him, were it not for the heart problem that he had, the fentanyl in his system, and dare I say the COVID. George Floyd was a COVID death. He had COVID in his system. So I don't know. Maybe put Fauci in prison for murdering George Floyd. I don't think YouTube's going to like that comment. She says, as a black woman in America, I don't like police. I have just told you that 90% of black crimes, the victims are also black. 90% of the time, if it's a black offender, it is a black victim. If you are a black person in America, you have a 10% chance of being harmed by a white person, and that gets infinitesimally smaller when you factor in police, which, by the way, have black police chiefs in every major city at this point. Washington, D.C., I should find the clip here. The police chief in D.C. was asked, what's the chain of command now that Trump did this? And she's like, what? What's the chain? What do you mean by chain of command? So that's DEI for you. But yeah, they have Muriel Bowser. They have the black police chief. They have black sergeants. They promote blacks all over the place because of racism in the past. And then they complain that police are racist. And it's like, you guys are in charge now. But no, we have blacks in every station, every walk of life in the police department. So you can't call the police force white when it is mostly run by blacks in all these big cities now. But again, you are saving blacks with a police presence. You are far more likely as a black American to be hurt by another black American than you are a white person, let alone a police officer. Libs get asked this every year in these polls. They're like, how many blacks were killed by police this year? And like half of the white lib population thinks 1,000 blacks are killed every year by police, when the number is closer to like 5 or 10. 5 or 10 a year. So if you're a black person in America, however many blacks there are in America, what is it? 14% of the population of a nation of like 400 million. What do we got? 40 or 50 million blacks in America. 5 to 10 are killed by police every year, and most of those are justified. But this woman, because also they don't understand per capita, also because they're just brainwashed and stupid at this point, they're lying to you and they just can't function. 5 to 10 blacks are killed by police every year. Again, I would say maybe 1 or 2 at most might not be justified, but anytime you're interacting with the police, it's going to be somewhat justified. Like, just don't be an airhead. But it's more dangerous to be a black woman in America. She knows because she has that lived experience that they love to talk about. Whereas there were 12,000 black homicides last year. 90% of that puts it at about 10,000 blacks killed by other blacks. I should have had a PowerPoint up for this show. Let's say 10,000 blacks are killed every year by other blacks. 5 to 10 blacks are killed by police. And again, that doesn't even take into account the race of the police officer, the reason that they were engaging with law enforcement in the first place. But sure, Simone Sanders, you tell me. I am so tired of this talking point that blacks are all afraid of cops. Do you know how I know blacks aren't afraid of cops, by the way? Because they mouth off every time they see a cop. Every time body cam footage comes out of just some poor innocent father, future astronaut getting blown away by a police officer, and they're like, look, they killed another one. You're like, if this dude were really afraid of a cop, his hands would be shivering. They'd be quaking on the steering wheel saying, please, officer, I'm about to go to this NASA interview. Please just let me go. I'm so afraid. And they would start crying and they would go in the fetal position. They're so terrified of cops, but they don't do that. You know what they do every time? They say, they jaw off, they mouth off. I won't even try to impersonate them right now. They refuse to comply with orders. And then when they get dragged out of their car because they get put under arrest for not following lawful commands, then they pull out their own weapon or they run away or they try to stab them. You're not afraid of the police if you act like that in front of the police. I don't know who needs to hear that. I'm tired of hearing that you're afraid of them. I'm tired of hearing that they make it worse in your life here. This woman, when you come back in 30 days, I think Donald Trump said he was going to do it for about 30 days. We're going to have the National Guard. We're going to take over we're going to federalize the DC police. 30 days starting off here. We're going to clean up the streets. And after that, maybe you're on your own. Maybe we clean it up. Maybe it reverts back to what it was before. We'll see what happens here. I guarantee in 30 days, though, there will be less homicide, because of course there will. This is not hard to figure out. There will be less homicide, less carjacking, less crime, less loitering. I got a great CNN clip for you guys in just a moment here. There will be less everything that is bad. Everything that Democrats support, they will get less of, which they're going to be sad about. There will be specifically, though, less black homicide victims in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump's policies will save more black lives in a month in our nation's capital than Black Lives Matter or any black celebrity has ever saved in aggregate in the history of this country here. That is a fact. This woman will not come back on Joe Scarborough's show and say, I was wrong. You know what I'm happy about? A 10-year-old wasn't shot in a drive-by shooting in her backyard jumping on a trampoline. I am happy that these black youths, instead of murdering each other, are alive in jail and they'll be released and hopefully rehabilitated. Hopefully not. Hopefully dropped off an island in the Pacific somewhere. There will be less black death in Washington, D.C. There will be bad guys removed from the streets. Life will be better. The black communities will be safer. They will thrive. She will not come on the show, though, and apologize. She's not going to say, I was wrong, Joe. Donald Trump had it correct. Turns out, when you remove the worst people in society, you remove the criminal element in society, the majority of us that just want to wake up every day, hug our kids, go off to work, mow our lawns. I don't want to mow my lawn, but you do something that is not criminal. That's all we want. That's got to be like 99% of the country that wants safety. Even libs would tell you. Libs, I have to get to the comment section here. I wonder if I still have this up. I think I deleted that page here. There was a comment section on one of these Morning Joe videos. Every single one was like, as a lib, and I'll always be a lib, I got to say, Donald Trump's doing something right. It is this like, I'm a liberal and I'll never acknowledge that Donald Trump is correct, but I do like safer streets. And it's like, what do we have to do to convince Democrat voters out there that voting Democrat will never deliver what they actually want? You can't vote for the party of pro-murder, pro-crime and expect crime to go away. I'm going to get into the hypocrisy and the cognitive dissonance and the future strokeouts of Dems because of things that they have to believe simultaneously here. I paused the video. This is like a 10-second video and we're going on for about 5 minutes here. I'm just over this narrative of blacks are afraid of police. More police doesn't mean more security. Again, I have given you the stats. I am not debating this. I won't change my mind on this, but I would love for a Democrat to acknowledge, like, maybe I was wrong. 10,000 black victims of murder every year because of other blacks, maybe 10. I will give you maybe 10 police shootings, police killings of blacks. And again, of those, mostly justified, by the way. But you're going to tell me that we have to get into logarithms, exponents at this point, 10 versus 10,000, and you're going to tell me police are the problem? Spare me.
Walk down the streets of Georgetown, you don't see a police officer on every corner, but you don't feel unsafe.
I can't do it, folks. I can't do it. I got to play that back a little bit here. I'm going to
down the streets of Georgetown, you don't see a police officer on every corner, but you don't feel unsafe.
All right, I'm going to do this in real time here. Georgetown, Washington, D.C., demographics. All right, I'm just going to share my screen from Google now. And so she says they don't even hear themselves. All right, I just went to Google. Here's the AI overview. She said when you walk down the streets of Georgetown, A, you don't see police, and B, you feel safe. So she's trying to say, you don't need police to feel safe. Why is that racist Donald Trump putting police in just black neighborhoods? I can't believe she has to ask that question. Let me lay this out for you, though, lady. Georgetown, D.C. is a primarily white, affluent neighborhood with a high percentage of residents holding advanced degrees. That's really all we have to read here. So it's 71% white, 12% Hispanic, 10% Asian. What's that, 83, 93? So at most, 7% black. Most of them have higher degrees. Most of them have a higher income. Historic district, so it's going to price certain people out, about 10,000 people living there. This is a wild claim for her to make here because it is so obvious that what she is saying is wealthy whites, educated whites, compared to uneducated, low IQ, poor blacks. And again, the socioeconomic thing is not an argument. You can be poor and not be a criminal. You can have morality without being a criminal. But it does go hand in hand in these cases here. It is not a cause. Socioeconomics is never a root cause for being murderous and violent. But holds a little weight here because if you're primarily white and affluent, the thing that made you affluent, the thing that made you want to live in Georgetown, and it's mostly live, by the way, but the number one thing here is it is white. Because when you look at any crime database, any crime statistic, what you will find is that whites are less prone to going out and committing violent acts, criminal violent acts, any criminal act in general. And when you have a black population that is lumped together, the black population in Georgetown, by the way, not going out and doing that. The black population in other parts of DC absolutely going out and doing that. There's part of that is when you get a certain percentage of blacks in one area. This holds true every single time. You can have a small pocket of blacks living in a wealthier white neighborhood, or any white neighborhood for that matter. You're not going to get a lot of crime. But as soon as there's a tipping point in what percent of that population or community can be black, and you see the takeover, you see crime rates go up almost every time. Actually, it does happen every single time. But she is saying it's racist for the police and the National Guard to go into black neighborhoods. I don't even know what point she's trying to make. There is no crime in the white neighborhood. Ergo, you do not need a heavy police presence in the white neighborhood. What are they going to do? What are they going to stop? Are they going to stop no crime happening? Like, there's already no crime happening, so you can't stop anything. You go where the crime is, and the crime is in the black neighborhoods. And the victims of those crimes are black residents. Again, is it racist to put black criminals in jail, or is it not racist to prevent other blacks from being victimized? This is one of the hypocrisies that we got to break down in a second here. How do you square that circle if you're a Democrat? I think it's really racist to go after black criminals. And also he's saving blacks from being victimized. Don't think about it too much, Dems.
But what is it about talking about places like Southeast D.C., right? Ward 8, if you will, that people say, well, we need more officers to make us safe. I think we have to rethink.
Well, you need more officers to keep you safe because there's more criminal activity. That's where a lot of the bad stuff happens. Yes, if you didn't have that, if you had a peaceful black... Ward 8 is like, isn't that the perfect name for just some like slum ghetto black neighborhood? Ward 8. Yes, don't go to Ward 8 if you're a tourist, if you're white. Don't even go there if you're black, if you can avoid it. Tell you what, lady, I will make a deal. If all of the knuckleheads, the black teens in Ward 8, stop assaulting people, then I will agree. We do not need any police officers in Ward 8. I will make that deal with Simone Sanders right now. If the black youths stop being black youths and just act civilized and don't commit crimes, don't assault people, don't steal people's cars, don't murder them, Washington, D.C., if it were a state, would have the highest murder rate of any state in the country. It has the fourth highest murder rate right now in the country compared to other big cities. As Donald Trump laid out, it has a higher murder rate than Bogota and Mexico City. When I taught English in Peru for a year after college, and Peru was fine. I was in Cusco. It's a tourist city. Everybody was friendly. I loved it. But then I would have colleagues go up to Colombia. And at the time, this was what, the late 2000 aughts, is that what they're called? Like 2008, 2009? They said, don't go to Colombia. The State Department said Colombia is not safe. It's run by FARC or the cartels or whatever. It's all like propaganda. Colombia was fine. Why doesn't the State Department have a no travel advisory to like Baltimore or St. Louis or Washington, D.C.'s Ward 8? It is far more dangerous there than any place in South America that I ever went to. I was lucky. I never encountered anything. But I came back to the United States. I helped my wife at the time tour a graduate school in St. Louis. So I dropped her off in St. Louis. I was like, I'm here. I have to check out Ferguson. I have to check out East St. Louis. I've never been more afraid in my life. I was driving through at night, by the way, and it was just mile upon mile of boarded up, burned down, empty neighborhoods. I was terrified. I stopped at a red light and I looked around and I was prepared. I actually ran a red light, did a U-turn, and I was like, I have to get out of here right now. If I go one more inch down this road, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to make it out alive here. Never felt that way anywhere else in the world. I've done a lot of traveling. Asia, South America, Europe. Europe is no-go zones as well at this point. I've been all over the place. I have never felt more afraid than in big American cities that are predominantly black and run by Democrats. And I think that is true for everybody. Everybody. So, yeah, Colombia is fine. I plan on going to Colombia soon. And she says, no, it's racist because Ward 8. Again, my deal with Democrats stands. If you guys stop allowing these... Actually, that's not even a politician thing. I'm just going to speak directly to the residents of Ward 8. If you get your kids in line and don't teach them that it's okay to carjack and murder, then I won't demand a police presence. It's really that simple. And this is the thing that Democrats don't understand. I don't even want Donald Trump to have to do this. I don't like the idea that the government has to swoop in and protect me. I don't like the idea that the National Guard is mobilized in big cities. I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. I am all for it. I want to see the National Guard in every big city tomorrow. I want to see every police station, police force that's been woke and DEI run by Democrats. I want to see the federal government take over all of it right now. I want our cities to be safe. I want our American citizens to be safe. I want the residents in these cities to be safe. So don't get me wrong. I am here for it, but I don't want to be here for it. I would much rather we have a high trust, low crime society. I would much prefer the residents of Simone Sanders' beloved Ward 8 not be hooligans, not be criminals, focus on doing the right thing, taking care of one another, being kind, not stealing, working hard, starting a company like Split Rock Coffee or Hinatori Golf, being a productive, producing member, contributing member of society. That's my thing. That's all I want. I am not voting for the government to just come in and do this willy-nilly. But you see, Democrats, because they are the party of pro-crime, pro-murder, pro-criminal, they are anti-law-abiding citizen. They are anti-America, anti-American citizen because they support everything that is wrong and evil. Their policies have allowed this. For the last 60 years, they have told Blacks specifically it is okay to be just a useless member of society, collect your welfare, go commit crimes. We're not going to hold you accountable. And you raise people this way. You can have generations of Blacks that have just been inculcated with this mindset. So, of course, we have to come in now. Like, this is what happens when you swing towards communism and you encourage a narco tyranny, where a narco tyranny says you can allow the criminal underclass to go be criminals. But as soon as you post a meme online, if you're a regular, normal American human being, you will be sent to jail for 2 years because you can't do that. That's a narco tyranny where you allow Ward 8 residents to do whatever they want, terrorize everybody else, go actually commit real crimes, and then hold the rest of us accountable for not getting a jab, for speaking out about Joe Biden, for protesting a stolen election. That is a narco tyranny. That's what Democrats are about. Solzhenitsyn had a great quote. I should have had it ready for the show. But he talked about how, basically criminals are allowed to exist because they don't know any better, or this is what they do and the state wants it because they like a narco tyranny. The criminal with a knife is given a free pass, and when he uses that knife, he's given a free pass. But if you, as just a law-abiding, tax-paying American citizen, have a knife, you will be arrested for possession of a weapon. And it's by design. Like, we always complain about the two-tier justice system. That's not two-tier. It is just by design. And I honestly don't. I have to keep asking this question. I honestly don't know why Democrats are Democrats at this point. Scott Adams had this bit over on X the other day. He's like, Democrats are really pining for their own Charlie Kirk. They wish they had a Charlie Kirk, a guy that would energize the young base, the base that they're just bleeding nonstop, because it turns out when young men and women are raised in a culture of hating whites, allowing everything bad to happen in society, they're watching the culture wars go off the rails here, and they're just like, I am over this. I am voting for a dictator to end this overnight. And he's like, they'll never have a Charlie Kirk because the problem is Charlie Kirk's whole shtick is common sense. The Democrats will never have a Todd Peterson. I like to think that I am grounded in common sense. And he says, as soon as you have a Charlie Kirk figure on the Democrat side that argues from a position of logic and reason and common sense, he ceases to be a Democrat. You can't have a Charlie Kirk. You can't have anybody like a Joe Rogan even. They're like, Joe Rogan, we'll just create our own Joe Rogan. Well, Joe Rogan asks questions. He's open-minded. He's wrong about some things, but at least Joe Rogan asks questions. He doesn't yell at his guest's face all the time. The left will never have a Joe Rogan because as soon as they become a Joe Rogan, they cease to be a Democrat or a leftist here. It is just wild to see. All right, I think we finished Simone Sanders here. I was going other places. I got to get to some of these video clips.
What safety means in America.
Yes, what safety means in America. If I were Black in America, I would be begging for this. I would absolutely be begging for the strong hand of the government to swoop in and save me from the criminal ne'er-do-wells, the rogue class that does not want to be part of society, refuses to function, cannot function in society. I would be begging for them to come in and help. How are you as a Black American living in these urban centers not outraged every single day, but you vote Democrat and then you just live in absolute hell? You live in absolute hell every day in these slums. I suppose you get your welfare. I suppose you think America's racist. You probably live with the idea that the GOP is just old white men that don't care. They might be old white men that don't care, but how do you claim that Democrats care? Name me a city. This is a question for the Democrat audience. Name a city, a state, a locale, a country that has ever been successful running on these Democrat ideas. You just can't. They're the party of pro-evil. It's upside down. Every single thing Democrats stand for is upside down. And it's not an accident. The other thing that we really have to stress here, it's not an accident. It's not an accident there's a lot of crime in the Democrat-run cities. It's not an accident that we had an open border. It's not an accident this happens. It's all intentional. It is all by design. You can call these people evil. You can make fun of Kamala Harris for being stupid. No one is this stupid, though. It's not hard to figure out. Either you put criminals away or good people get injured. It is one or the other. Man, Fally is keeping the comment section alive today here. Yeah, I'll have to scroll through the end of the show and give you a shout out for all that, Fally. All right, I think we're done with Simone here. Can't take it anymore. I did want to get to this post, though. As we start talking a little bit about the hypocrisy of Dems, I like I said earlier, I can't believe these people haven't all stroked out at this point. The cognitive... Hey, we got to get rid of this. Well, I said I shared my screen, and it's not sharing. There we go. The cognitive dissonance is just wild here if you're a Democrat. So here's a post. Here's a great follow from Kofefe Annan. Love the Kofefe. crazy that, so again, big balls got beat up in the streets, and that's, I think, when Donald Trump was like, this is it, this is the moment, I'm over it. But it has certainly been building up for a long time. So Dems have been using crime as a weapon to control cities for more than 50 years now. Fact check true. And here's the thing. I loved how he pointed it out so succinctly. They have two lines that they alternate between. So number one is they're always trying to solve the criminal justice problem. They're always trying to solve the problem of crime in the cities. Now, to be clear, they created the problem, they enabled the problem, they celebrate the problem, but they pretend they want to solve the problem. And it's not racist when Democrats want to solve the issue of crime. You know, they like to look for their root causes. Root causes is just an excuse to pretend to explore a solution that they know the answer to. It's, they created the problem on purpose, so they know what the solution is. Just undo the thing that you did in the first place. Restorative justice, harm reduction, cashless bail, I could add, you can go on and on. And so now with Donald Trump doing his thing, anything that stops crime is morally wrong. It's racist. It's repugnant. Donald Trump's going in and using the federalized police station, the federalized police officers, the National Guard. That's racist and it's wrong. How dare you overstep? That's fascist. It's fascist. So which one is it, Dems? What do you believe? Do you believe in solving the issue of crime? I would start there, and I would ignore even the ideas here. My question for Dems would simply be, do you want crime reduced in America? Do you want crime reduced in these cities? Do you want innocent blacks to be safe from other violent blacks in their communities? I imagine if you framed it that way to a white lib, do you want blacks to be safe in America? They'd be like, hell yeah, I'm not a racist. I want blacks to be safe in America. And you're like, good. Well, let me lay out the stats here. 10,000 blacks get murdered by other blacks every single year. Millions more live as subjects to absolute anarcho tyranny in big cities because of who you vote for. Gangs run the streets. Children are killed in drive-bys. Young kids are just absorbed into the gang. Now, this is not an entirely political problem. Yes, the government has motivated young black women to marry the government instead. As Larry Elder often says, it absolves men of their moral and fiduciary responsibility. Why be a present father if honey over there, baby mama, can just get bigger checks with the more kids she has? She's under no stress. She has zero pressure to marry a dad. Why would she marry the father that's poor? She'll marry the government, just keep having kids, churning out babies, and get larger checks every month. So she is, I mean, great deal for her right now. The guy, she's like, well, if I knock you up, I know you're taken care of. Big Daddy government, the white taxpayer base, hate whites, but I love their tax money. They'll take care of you, honey, so that's fine. But if you want to solve crime, Dems are like, yes, let's solve crime. Crime's a bad thing. Let's discover the root causes. Why are black people committing crimes? It's probably slavery. Probably slavery that they're doing that here. You know what we'll do? We'll just do restorative justice. So we'll never actually hold them accountable. I see parents doing this all the time as well. When I was in the school system, if a kid like punched a teacher in the face, which happened, we would send the kid back to the class, and we made the teacher apologize to the kid for triggering him. So this was a real story. I taught in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Assistant principal there for 3 years. And then I left. I started the American Tribune. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got kids. I'm going to teach my own kids instead of teaching these kids that don't care. But we had a second grade black boy, and I think the race matters in the story because it would have been handled differently if it was a white boy. But this black student, the fire alarm goes off. I think we actually had a scheduled fire drill that day. And so what you do in a fire drill is you line up, and the teacher walks you outside. You go to your designated zone out there. You count heads. You report back to the person in charge. They walk you over to me, and I say, okay, this classroom is all their kids accounted for, because you don't want a kid in a burning building. So the classroom is lining up, and this dude's just drawing in his desk. He's like, F this. I don't care if there's a fire drill. I don't care if it's a real fire. You're a white teacher. I don't have to listen to you. And I'm reading his thoughts, and I'm pretty accurate on this now. And so I don't have to listen to you, white lady. I think you're the devil. I think school's awful. I just want to go home and play video games, and when I get older, join a gang. So she kneels down to be like, and this is what, you know, she was a great teacher. I love this teacher. Wrong politically and everything, but a wonderful human being, a wonderful mother, wonderful teacher. Kneels down to this little guy and says, hey, my man, and whatever his name was, I don't know, I don't care. Hey, there's a fire drill. Do you see all your friends lining up right now? Let's get in line with them. Let's make sure we're safe, and then we'll come back and draw when we're done. Dude turns around and gives her a black eye. Little 8-year-old boy with his loving teacher. This is like March. They've been together all year long. He knows she's a good person. He knows she's the only one that cares about him in his life. Doesn't matter. Dude turns around and socks her in the eye. It immediately turns black. He comes down to the office, and we can't suspend because first my school district and then actually the state of Minnesota prevented you from suspending anybody under the age of 9. You just can't do it. You can't expel. You can't even suspend. You can't send home any kid younger than 9. Well, because of racism. It boils down to the fact that you would be sending more black kids home than white kids, and we can't have disparate outcomes, because if there's disparate outcomes, that means that there's something wrong with the system and not something wrong with the individual or the culture here. So because more black kids would be sent home, they said, no, you can't do it. You just can't expel or suspend anybody anymore, especially under the age of 9 and 3rd grade. So a guy comes down to the office, and all you can do, now, maybe that's their version of reparations. Yes. How about you don't get suspended from school? There, reparations done. Oh, it does more harm than good. I'm joking about that. These kids absolutely need to be removed. If I were the, what's the word I'm looking for? In Minnesota, they call it the commissioner of education. If I were the secretary of education at the national level, my policy would be every school has to select 5% of their population, and they just expel them on day one. You figure out who the worst 5% of any school system is, and you get rid of them. And you say, you are no longer welcome in the school system whatsoever. You have 2 choices. You can go start a business or go to prison. That would fix the problem in schools overnight. I am not being hyperbolic about that, by the way. This is the policy. If I am ever tapped to be in charge of an education system, whether it's a single school or overseeing an entire network of schools, I would say, principals, assistant principals, teachers, you sit down. You give me the name of 5% of just the worst students in your building. And by worst, I'm not saying the dumbest, but I'm saying the most disruptive, the most violent, the least engaged. You give me their names, and I will deliver them. I will stand in front of their door at home every day and say, Mom and Dad, this child is not welcome in my school anymore. You could save, and I mean this, you could save every single school in America by eliminating just 5%. In any school, in any structure, in any society, it's always a small minority of people that are committing most of the problems. I think New York City had a thing where like 400 dudes in New York City were responsible for a third of all crime in the subway system. You remove just the tip of the iceberg of problem childs, and you're going to watch everything melt away. Number one, you're not dealing with most of the problems anymore. But number two, by extension, then you're able to dedicate time and resources to the ones that do crop up. So instead of just playing whack-a-mole on the same 10 kids every single time, you can actually address the kid that has to get ignored because he's not punching out teachers. Maybe he's just running the halls, and you're like, well, code red over here. Teacher has a black eye. So you keep running, dude, because I'm going to go deal with this over here, make sure the teacher's okay. But if you eliminate the worst of the worst, everything functions. And again, this is at any level of structure. School system, school district, neighborhood, city, state, you name it. You get rid of the worst people in society overnight. And so that's my policy. 5%, give me the names. They're never coming back again. And I just fixed the entire school problem, regardless of the population of that school. This would work in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. This would work in North Minneapolis, where I also taught for a year as well. This would be a great practice for the rich white suburban schools too. All right, who are the 5% of kids that are doing coke, vaping, on their phones all day? Get rid of them too. This is not a racist policy. This is for any system. It applies just the same way. If you're not engaged, if you don't want to be here, if you're showing me you don't want to be here, then don't come here, and I'm not going to let you come here anymore. Yeah, Valley, again, I spent a lot of time in detention for fighting, mostly black kids. Don't get me wrong, I had a lot of black friends too. This is not a racist policy. I'm with you, Fally. I'm not disagreeing with you or trying to argue with you, but I am just making the case here. This principle applies to any system where there are people. 5% across the board. I don't care if you're white, black, whatever it is. I don't care how big or how small the system is. If there are people in there, most of the people want to do well. Most of the people want to be left alone. They want to be able to thrive. They don't want to deal with shenanigans. Wherever you are, just remove 5% automatically, and everything else will get way, way better. All right, but we're going back to this here, guys. We have to go back to stroking out here. So, Dems, I'm going to solve crime because it's important to solve crime, not because they care about the victims, by the way. I have to stress this again. Democrats never pretended to want to solve crime, and they pretended because if they wanted to, they would do what Trump's doing. But they never wanted to stop crime, even faking, because they cared about the victims. They always care about the aggressors. They care about the offenders. They care about the victimizers here. When they use words like restorative justice and harm reduction, it is always tailored to, focused on the bad people, the bad guys. That's who they want to focus on. How can I turn this career criminal into a functioning member of society? Not how can I keep people safe? That is a huge difference in the mindset of Democrats and everybody else. Not how can I fix this broken person? Rather, how can I preserve the functioning pieces, the functioning members of society, the law-abiding people, the good people, the tax-paying people? And I don't like to say taxpayer. I throw taxpayer in all the time. I'd prefer none of us are taxpayers, but just the decent people in society. How can I keep them safe? That's who I care about. So you got Simone Sanders up there saying, how dare Donald Trump? This is racist. It's not in the white neighborhood. I don't even care what the race of the people are that are getting victimized. I just care that there are people getting victimized. And I want whoever is doing the victimizing to be disappeared from society. We need to bring back public executions. We need to bring back life sentences for just looking the wrong way at this point. That will make crime go away when you are hard on crime. Look at El Salvador. Look at what Bukele did. He took one of the most dangerous, disgusting countries in the world, and now it's a paradise because all he did was say, you're not a functioning member of society. You're a violent, hardened criminal. You're a gang member. You're out of here. And guess what? It works pretty well. So I care about the victims, not the victimizers. And that is a huge difference between those on the left and those on the right. But again, how are you not stroking out? Solving crime was good until solving crime was bad. I had a lot of hypocrisy to get into today. I think when you talk about the National Guard, let me do one more race angle. I think this one's pretty wild here. Let me do one more about race. And then we'll get into the National Guard hypocrisy.
The things that we have seen over and over from the president, from his team, Stephen Miller saying it's like Baghdad in Ethiopia. They seem to hold their harshest criticism sometimes for cities that are majority black and brown. Do you see that, and what do you think that means?
All right, I got to pause this here. I don't know who this clown is with his stupid afro and his stupid necklaces and his stupid tie. He's probably wearing white sneakers, his stupid way of speaking. Why do we focus our attention specifically? I've been doing this. This show's been going on for 50 minutes now. I'll explain it again because you have morons like this that could listen to my whole podcast and still be like, what's he talking about? The reason we're focusing on black communities is because that's where the crime is. That is the answer right there. Because you have black teenagers in Washington, D.C., in Detroit, and Baltimore, and St. Louis, and every other Democrat-run city. You have black youths, predominantly. I don't even know the number. I'd guess it's probably, like 85, 90%. And then you got, like, the career criminals. But most of these guys get themselves killed or thrown in jail because they're just repeat offenders so much. Like, eventually, you do remove the older element. So it is the black youths. They're fatherless. They're motherless for the most part. They have maybe a mother physically present, but she's not doing anything. Or maybe she's working and doesn't have time to take care of the kids and doesn't really care because she has another baby, so she can't focus on the older kids. So you have basically parentless children joining gangs, doing whatever they want because they've never been taught what is right. And then number two, they look at a society that doesn't hold them accountable anyways. So why not? And honestly, they live for it. Yeah, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And they are just fine with that mindset. Why are we focusing on black cities? Well, brother, because that's where crime is happening. And again, it could be any demographic. If there was a lot of crime, I know this will blow every Democrat viewer's mind. They're like, wow, I thought he was racist. Guess what, folks? Wherever there is a lot of crime, wherever it's concentrated, I want it resolved. If it's a black community, if it's a white community, if it's a Hispanic community, if it's an LGBTQ plus IA community, I want crime solved because I don't like crime. I like law and order. Fally says it best. It's time for law and order. Fally didn't qualify her comment and say it's time for law and order in white America. Fally didn't say, I guess I'll do law and order for the black victims and the black communities. She didn't put it that way. Fally and I, and most people, nearly everybody that voted for Donald Trump, simply wants law and order everywhere, regardless of race, regardless of what the community looks like. I want to live in a functioning society where the criminal element is not propped up by the opposing political party, by Democrats, the pro-murder party. I want all crime taken care of. I want to be able to walk around, drive around in America, and not feel like I'm going to get assaulted. I don't want to have to drive in East St. Louis ever again, but if I did, I wouldn't have to worry about getting destroyed there. I simply want crime solved. And crime in America in 2025 is heavily, heavily concentrated in black communities because of black youths. And we have to be able to say it. But you got this moron with the fro. I don't know. Let me know. Is that a Jerry curl? Are those coming back? I never knew what a Jerry curl was. That might just be a stupid afro. Then you got DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, and you got this guy whose name I always forget. Is this Jonathan Capehart? But let's see what they have to say. Why is Donald Trump in black communities?
I think that I have been dealing kind of with this issue for a number of years. It's kind of easy fodder on the campaign trail. But now we're talking about governing, and my job is to focus on making sure our city is running well. And
Democrats are so good at saying a lot without saying anything. It's focused on governing. We've been doing this a long time. Talked about it on campaign trail. Also, a big difference between those on the left and on the right. The left loves to talk. They will virtue signal all day long. They'll never take action that means anything. Donald Trump is just like, it's awful here, and I'm going to do something. I'm going to stop it from being awful. And he just does it. I think they hate him for that. I think there is to be a Democrat, you have to be motivated by jealousy, by hatred. Again, when I talk about Democrat morality being just whatever Donald Trump's not doing, that's the motivated by hatred. I hate Trump so much, I won't even think about what's good or wrong. I'll just think about what he's not doing. Same thing here. They're jealous as well. You have to be jealous to be a Democrat. You cannot be a not jealous Democrat. Those things don't exist. They want to steal other people's money. They hate seeing people that have more than them. They think life is unfair. It's not because we have unique traits or IQs or skill sets or motivations, or they think we're all the same thing and we would all achieve the exact same thing if not for racism, if not for this kind of ism right here, sexism, misogyny, other isms. I would be Elon Musk too if it weren't. I am a young black woman and I could be Elon Musk starting Tesla, except the man and the whites kept me down. Like, they honestly think that. So they're motivated by jealousy when they see someone else actually doing something. But again, they say everything without saying nothing. Muriel Bowser, the correct answer, I will speak for Muriel Bowser here, as I honestly didn't care. I don't want to put black people in jail. I don't care that black people are getting victimized. I am a Democrat. I believe in restorative justice. I believe in never holding people accountable here. And victims are just the cost of doing business as a communist here. That's what she's saying. That's all she has to say. But she will pretend that she looked into it and talked about it on the campaign trail, and we're talking governance now. She'll say all this stuff, but at the end of the day, she didn't do anything about it because she didn't want to do anything about it. She does not care that people are getting murdered in her city. Other blacks are getting murdered in her city because she loves anarcho-tyranny. She loves criminals. She loves what is evil more than she loves anything else that is good.
People enjoy a great quality of life. And I think we're doing a really good job.
She says they're doing a really good job in D.C. She's doing such a good job that Donald Trump had to bring in the National Guard and federalize the police force there because she was doing such a good job. I can't believe he would do that. He must be motivated by racism. I got to stop right there. She's going to keep talking for another 2 minutes, but I can't. Here's CNN. This clip is from just this morning. They sent one of their younger reporters out there, and he noticed that Washington, D.C. looked different today. Folks, you got to check this out.
Station every single day on my way to work, and I have not seen it like this. You can see a National Guard Humvee behind me, and we've seen, I don't know, Josh, if you can pan over, there are a couple National Guardsmen who are walking across the street over there. We have Humvees basically at each corner of the train station here on a fairly busy Thursday afternoon. And this is what you can expect here in the coming days. Let's pan over there. You can see another Humvee there. This is what you can expect over the next 30 days and possibly a lot longer after that, Jess, because we know just yesterday President Trump said that they are planning to indefinitely extend their federalization of MPD and really ramp up federal law enforcement resources here in the district. It's not just National Guard. We have also seen Homeland Security officers, DEA officers, Park Police. There were vehicles here just a little bit earlier. This is one of the areas of focus that we have heard a lot of concerns about, crime around Union Station, people who are loitering outside. I will tell you, as somebody who walks this route all the time, it does seem like there are fewer people just sort of hanging.
God, it must pain them so much to admit this. It takes him, how long was this video? It doesn't give me the time. How long has he described? Okay, there's a Humvee here. I'm going to touch the Humvee because it's on camera and you can't see it apparently. So I'm going to go point out the Humvee that's clearly there. There's one over there. There's some people over here. And then at the very end, he finally talks about it. I come to this station every single day. I see how bad it is. The Trump admin knows how bad it is. That's why they focused on Union Station, where you have commuters come through to the city every day, government employees, business owners, just regular human beings, tourists. Turns out a main hub needs to be safe and secure for your city to function. So they put not even a heavy presence. I got to be honest here. I'm disappointed that there are not Humvees parked on every single. They just shut down the street, put all Humvees, put all National Guard there. I want to see rifles. But he's like, I've been doing this for a long time, and it looks different today. You don't have people loitering. I haven't heard about anybody getting assaulted today. Do you not hear yourself, a Democrat voter? It is not racist to make people safe. It is anti-human to allow them to be unsafe. This guy right here, again, it doesn't even look that bad. How many Humvees did we see in the clip? 3, maybe? How many people do you see walking around? Quite a bit. How many dregs of society, how many low IQ criminal elements do you see there? Very few. The homeless, not as many anymore. Gosh, it almost seems like more people would go to Washington, D.C. if it were safer like that. The CNN reporter has to point out that things got better because of Donald Trump's policies. And I got to be honest, folks, if this is fascism, bring it on. This is not what I would imagine with fascism. Military parades down the street, Humvees lining the road, blockades everywhere, soldiers every foot. He has just a few people there. And turns out that's all it takes. And Democrats have now been exposed for enabling 50 years of relentless, unmitigated crime because it turns out all you had to do was put a few people there and say you can't do that anymore. That is what law and order looks like. That is exactly what I voted for. And again, ideally, we wouldn't have this at all. But because Democrats exist and because Democrats are pro-crime, pro-murder, now I want it to exist. I want this to spread across the nation. And I want Donald Trump to message to every American and saying, the Democrats wanted this to happen. It wasn't a mistake that we have crime. It's not an accident that we have all this crime. It was intentional and it was malicious. They wanted you to be ruled under a system of anarcho-tyranny. You have to pay your speeding ticket. You have to pay your property taxes every month or you go to jail. You have to pay your income taxes. You can't do a hit and run. You can't go shoot your colleague. But we will allow all these black teenagers to do whatever they want every single day. They will create their own laws, live in their own system of justice here. And you just can't have it anymore. So now I'm bringing in the National Guard. I'm making you safer. You're welcome, Democrat voter. You didn't vote for me because you're brainwashed. But I will now make your life better, your community better here. And I want it. I want all of this at this point. I want Donald Trump to mobilize the National Guard in all 50 states. And I want him to make every urban center safe again. Now, I pointed this out on Twitter, the one drawback to making a Democrat's life better at this point, and I've gone on record too, I have no problem saying this again, I think the only thing that'll wake Democrats up at this point is if they get mugged by their voting. So that means you need to go walk down the street in a big city and get assaulted by a black teenager. I'm sorry, but I've tried to tell you, you were calling Donald Trump racist for trying to solve that problem. I don't know what else there is left at this point except to be hurt by your policies, by the way you vote. So my concern is Democrats in Washington, D.C. right now, and if it spreads throughout the nation, their lives will be made immeasurably better. They're already better, by the way. Secure border, less illegals, deportations, criminals getting locked up. Their dollar is going. I understand the federal debt is an issue that will probably never get resolved at this point, but their economy is better here, at least for the time being. Things are slowing down with inflation. They never change their mind. So they'll still vote against Donald Trump, even though their life is better already. So now if you live in the big city, you're going to be a Democrat voter, just statistically. Let's say he brings in the National Guard. He reduces crime. He locks up the criminals. It's just a better quality of life where you live. These people aren't going to connect the dots and say, gosh, maybe not voting Democrat had good outcomes in my city. So they won't do it. So the only thing is, I want Donald Trump to clean up American cities because I want America to be a thriving, successful nation. But then I'm just like, he's going to do that. And all these people will be ungrateful twats. They're not going to put the pieces together. They're not going to be like, it turns out that America First policies made my life better, not voting Democrat. So these people would get everything made better for them. They'll still vote Democrat. They'll still ruin their city. Donald Trump will have to come in again and rescue them from their own mistakes. And it's just like, I got one of two choices. Either don't save them, don't let them vote. That's it. And I would lean towards the latter at this point. I'm very opposed to everybody voting. It's been a disaster. Just drive on the roads for a second. Just talk to an average person for 5 seconds. These people don't know how to function in their own life, let alone how to make decisions that affect other people. But I've done that before. I won't go on that rant again. But here's CNN. Had to get back to the video. Basically admitting that, yes, Donald Trump's policy is working. Doesn't look very racist. We just played clips of like Simone Sanders. I didn't play all the clips. It's white, it's black, it's all of them. They're a Democrat. They're pro-murder at this point. I don't see a lot of racism in this clip. What I do see is a lot of safety and security. And that's what it distills down to. Again, Dems have to look at the world through a prism of race. That's all they do. Everything is racialized. Does this hurt blacks? Does this hurt whites? Does it help blacks? Does it help whites? There's a disparate impact, so that must mean there's racism somewhere. There was slavery once upon a time. Every decision they make has to be distilled through a lens of race. Now, if it helps whites, that's bad. If it helps blacks, it's good. But again, I pointed this out. If it helps black victims, doesn't that make it good? But you're going after a black aggressor, so that's bad. Like, these people can't figure it out. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know what this clip is here. We've been going, man, another hour today, folks. I don't know where the time goes on this show. Fally's been keeping me company today. My own Twitter thread, folks. If you're watching me on Todd Amtrib over on X, I am getting shadow banned. I don't even care anymore, but they are shadow banning me for sure. I have a rather large account that never gets any reach. It is happening again today. It is what it is. But I hope you're watching on Rumble. If you are watching on the American Tribune Rumble channel or the American Tribune Live Todd Peterson Rumble channel, drop a comment. Let me know you're watching here. I don't see the stats in front of me right now, but we're doing okay. We're an hour in. We're having fun. But with that being said, folks, I did want to read off these stats here. I just have to stress this enough. Again, I make these shows with Democrat voters in mind. It's nice to present information. I don't want you guys to feel like you're alone out there. No, you're not going crazy for thinking like, yes, this is a good thing that we have law and order. Let me read off some stats from the White House, and then we'll get out of here today. In 2024, Washington, D.C. saw a homicide rate of 27.3 per 100,000 residents. That is the fourth highest homicide rate in the country, 6 times higher than New York, higher than Atlanta, Chicago, Compton. D.C. was a state. I think I said this already. It would have had the highest homicide rate of any state in the nation. 3 times higher than Islamabad, 18 times higher than communist-run Havana, Cuba. The number of juveniles arrested in D.C. has gone up each year since 2020, many of whom had prior arrests. No shock there. It's just wild, man. It is just wild. Again, if you are opposed to Donald Trump cleaning up the streets, you as well are pro-murder and pro-crime at this point. Never try to moralize an issue again and make me feel like I am the bad guy. The fact remains, I'll say it one more time. Again, I focus on the pro-murder side today. Democrats are outraged that Donald Trump is keeping people safe and alive. What a time to be alive, right? Here's Donald Trump saying, I'm going to keep your community safe. I don't want you to get victimized. I don't want you to be murdered. And he is the bad guy for it. But that is what Democrats represent these days. Pro-murder, pro-crime, pro-infanticide, pro-child grooming, pro-war, pro-open borders, pro-illegal immigration. It is simply astounding that the Democrat Party has even 5% of support nationwide at this point. This is not debatable. They are pro-evil. Everything Democrats stand for is pro-evil. And in response, they'd be like, well, right now, see, it depends on the week. Right now, I get a lot of comments on our YouTube channel because I drop these videos, and they're like, you elected the P word, the PDF, as people like to call them on YouTube to bypass the censors. And it's like, you weren't even talking about this list a week ago. Whatever you were programmed to be mad about, you vote Democrat all the time. Bill Clinton is getting subpoenaed, 28 visits to the island, allegedly. Epstein, I think, had 17 visits to the White House documented just between 93 and 95. They don't talk about that. But again, that's the stroke stuff that they'd have to worry about. Like, oh, I'm mad at Trump for the Epstein connection that maybe exists, and I'm just not going to think about the Clinton connection that actually absolutely does exist. And I voted for Bill and his wife too, and nothing to see here. Simply astounding here. But yes, pro everything. So this week they'd come after you and say, like, well, Trump was on the list. How can you vote for him? And again, if he's on the list, then fine. Send him to prison for the rest of his life. Like, this isn't complicated. If you had asked 2 weeks ago, well, he's going to get us in a war with Iran. And you're just like, you supported Ukraine for 3 years. Like, wait, is war bad now all of a sudden? It just goes on and on and on. Depending on the week, they'll be like, but yeah, Trump. Well, remember when Trump was campaigning and he said on a Hollywood Access tape that loose, slutty women let rich, powerful men touch them? And you're like, well, that sounds pretty accurate. I think that's true. You know, maybe instead of getting mad at Trump, maybe you should get mad at these loose, slutty women. Maybe you don't throw yourself at a rich, powerful man and then wonder why he went after you when you gave yourself up to him. Like, none of this is complicated. So no, you have nothing on Trump at this point. The only thing I will say, I'm going to end the show with this. I, too, am disappointed with Donald Trump. I am disappointed that there are not more National Guard in D.C. I am disappointed there are not more deportations happening right now. I am disappointed that we don't have a higher, longer border wall with Mexico down there. I am upset at Donald Trump that he has not arrested any of these corrupt politicians. I'm looking at you, Barack Obama, you, Adam Schiff, you, Hillary Clinton, you, Nancy Pelosi, everybody that orchestrated the fake Russian collusion narrative hoax, everybody that helped steal the 2020 election and lie about what happened on January 6th. So yes, I share your concerns, Democrats. I too am disappointed with Trump. He's not doing enough, and he's not doing it fast enough. But thank goodness he is bringing order to Washington, D.C. Now he needs to do it across the rest of the nation. But you keep calling him a racist for going after black teenagers that are harming people, and you ignore the fact that he is saving countless black lives by making D.C. safe again. With that, folks, Fally says, give him time, Todd. It's going to happen. I have to be. I'm an optimist. I can't imagine living life as a cynic. Like I'm almost 40 years old. I've lived enough life to not get my hopes up too much. But my goodness, if you can't be at least somewhat optimistic or hopeful for the future, what's the point? So I'm there with you, Fally. We'll give it time. It's going to happen. Someone will get arrested here. We are only 200 days in. I do have to remind myself that 200 days. What a world of a difference. Joe Biden seems like a lifetime ago because so much good is happening here. But with that being said, folks, hour 10 into the show, I had a blast today. So much to talk about. Fally, I couldn't even get to all your comments. Fally says, thank you, Todd. Thank you, Fally, for tuning in. Thank you for commenting. And for everybody else, whether you're on YouTube, Twitter, I don't think we had any YouTube views today. I'm just checking. Whether you're on Rumble, whatever platform you're watching on, thank you for tuning in. If you like the comment, give us a like, give us a share. I did plug Split Rock Coffee, promo code Todd10, Hinatory Golf, promo code Todd15. If I don't make any money off of that for the most part, but if you want to support the entrepreneurial spirit of America, Paul over at Split Rock Coffee, I'm not going to use my friend's name for Hinatory Golf here, but these are great Minnesotans that just want to build something for themselves, to provide for their families, create a legacy for their families, and take advantage of this wonderful nation that nominally has free markets still. But if you work hard, you think smart, you can still succeed. And I want to support that there. So splitrockcoffee.com, promo code Todd10, Hinatory Golf, promo code Todd15. And if you purchase those products, let me know in next week's show on Tuesday what you think about it here. But with that being said, folks, I am out of here. American Tribune Live is shutting down. I am back tomorrow with my business partner, Jason Robertson, on Freedom from the Press podcast, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern on our main Rumble channel, the American Tribune. We'll be back on Facebook. We got so much to talk about tomorrow as well. You would think, gosh, Todd just went on for an hour here. No, I'm just getting started, folks. So I will resume tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. But we will catch you then. Have a great rest of your day.